This movie begins with a lovely couple discussing how far their business has gone because the husband, handed over the business and everything about it to his younger brother. They were pleased of how things had gone. The next scene shows some hired assassin preparing their guns and whatsoever weapons they were going to use to go and assassinate their targets. Unfortunately, the couple that was shown in the first scene are going to be the target of these people's attack. It's so sad because shortly after this moment, the couple were going to be in grave danger. They were going to lose their life. This movie is evidence, and this is the part 1. The next scene shows a CDI of the police force taking a morning jog just to keep fit, and while she was doing so, she was praying. She even saved a young girl from a very ghastly accident by pushing her away from the road. God used her that morning to save a girl's life. Imagine if she was not there. The next scene shows the couple in a car where they were in a deserted road discussing about their plans for the future. The woman was even hailing the man how she knew she didn't make a mistake. They were so happy of how far God had brought them. They were even planning to send their children abroad to further their studies. Everything was looking well. Life was good. They were content, they were happy, and they were so glad that they trusted God throughout their life and involved him in their business. An informant stood by the road, informing the gunmen that the couple were in a deserted spot and they could take them out. Immediately, these people arrived with their guns, arms, and everything, and they sprayed this couple with bullets. They killed them in cold blood, not minding the consequences of their action. All that mattered to them was the money they were paid, and all they did was to make sure that the job was well done. This was a gruesome accident. Shortly after, armed men came and decided to check the scene of the crime. The police force arrived. They were so disheartened by this unfortunate incident. So they decided to start and carry out their job, making sure that they did a thorough checkup of the environment. They checked the bodies of the victim and they took whatever personal information they had on them, because everything would be used in making sure that the killers were brought to justice. The next scene showed the DPO conversing with the CDI who was shown earlier. He was telling her that there was a new case that was brought on ground, and it was a serious matter because it involved high influential people, and it was a homicide case. The killers needed to be brought to justice for killing such people in cold blood. The CDI went to her office and she knew it was a great task upon her. She called her secretary and told them to do the right thing. Then she proceeded to pray to God for wisdom because she needed whatsoever wisdom she could engage in this sensitive matter. Next, her and her team decided to go into the streets to find out whatsoever information they could on the killers and who these people might have had as enemies that would decide to kill them in cold blood. They took some surveys, spoke to some people, and just find out randomly if there was any clue they could find that would apprehend and bring the killers to justice. The next scene shows a school welcoming a new principal. She was a new person that was brought there to help the school run perfectly. She introduced herself and told the student that she would like their cooperation if only they would do well. The next scene showed the staff conversing with the principal, welcoming her once again to her new office and telling her that there was a student that needed expulsion in the school because she had been a nuisance a while back. Unfortunately, this girl had always been a bright student, but all of a sudden she began to decline academically and even in her behaviors. She started stealing and fighting teachers, stealing from both students and teachers. Everyone was tired of her. The principal asked to see the girl, and when she saw the girl, she saw that it was just a little girl. She asked her, what could be the problem? Why was she so angry? What changed suddenly? What happened that she was a bright student and then unfortunately she came down and started behaving abnormally? The girl sat for a while. The principal told her she could confide in her. So she decided to tell her that she was this way because her mother had left her. The principal was so shocked. She started inquiring more closely from this girl. She was asking her, why did she say so? Where did her mother leave to? The girl then told her that since her mother left them, their father had been sad and the home has been a chaotic place. The principal was so sad because she started feeling like this girl here was her daughter, whom she had left many years ago because she could no longer stay with her father. Overcome with so much emotion, the principal told the girl to go back to class. She needed time to gather herself. She felt so bad because her decision had made her daughter turn out this way, almost a failure and almost expelled from school, if not the grace of God. She started shedding tears and she looked back to when her daughter was so little. She was so sad because she knew that she had made a grave mistake. She was in so much pain and sorrow because she knew that she was the cause of her daughter's predicament. The next scene shows a lecturer entertaining a young lady whom was placed on probation because of her unseriousness in school. This girl thought she could buy her way through school because that was how she was used to doing it, but she didn't know that this lecturer had a different plan. He was made of a different stuff. She tried to seduce the lecturer, telling him that she could do anything for him, only for her to pass her subjects. This man unfortunately told her that she should go and read her books. That is the only sure way she was going to pass her exams. Ashamed and in pain, the lady walked out of the office. The next scene showed the police and their members of the force advising students of higher institution to take their studies seriously and to avoid bad moral vices. The students listened attentively. While some had already made their decision in their mind, others decided to change. The next scene shows a clash between two cultists, one being the major capon and the other being the assistant. The assistant, whose name was Jake, came to lay complaint to the capon that he was the one who put him in power. They were the ones who walked the streets together. Unfortunately, now they no longer share the same glory. He even showed him how they had been together since on campus and they built this empire together. Now that it was time to reap the fruits, he was pained that he was eating scraps from the capon's table. He was not willing to take it. The two of them exchanged words in a heated argument, and shortly after that, guns were raised. The other party decided not to resort to violence for that day, so they decided to go away, knowing that they would get their revenge back. Back in their cubicle, they were planning how they were going to take out their capon because they could no longer bear the thought of having to take scraps after fighting so hard for what they worked for. The next scene showed Favor Davis' father at the bar with some men. He was drinking and was arguing that he was the best to drink. It was so unfortunate because after drinking so much, he was so drunk, and on his way home he was lamenting how his life was useless, his child was useless, and his wife was useless. This was such a sad sight to see indeed, because this man had wasted his life and made terrible decisions. Now, before we go on to the next scene, let me make this announcement. This disclaimer is important. It's just to let you know that this movie belongs to the Living Seed Media team and the Battle for the Young Media production. This is just a recap. If you need to find out more, click the link in the description box. Also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel to receive updates daily and weekly. Now, let's get back to our story. This scene shows a young girl in a club dancing and singing. She is a very good musician, but she chose to sing somewhere else. Shortly after, she was picked up by a young man in a car. Obviously, she was a prostitute and she hawked her body for money. But it didn't matter to her because she felt like it was a short-term gig and it was not something she was doing for a lifetime. According to her, it was just a short hustle that she was willing to do just to sustain herself until her music career blows. This is really a sad tale. And unfortunately, many young girls are like this, selling their body momentarily that will give them permanent scars if they are not careful. Soul ties, unwanted pregnancies, STIs, and the lot. At the commencement of the investigation of the murder of the renowned couple, the son was reminiscing how the last time he spoke to his parents, they called as usual, asking him about his welfare, spiritually, physically, and otherwise. He remembered how they spoke on phone and how they related well. It was such a sad thing because this was the last memory he actually had of his parents. Unfortunately, they were gone, murdered in cold blood, and nothing could bring them back. His mom urged him to take discipleship relationship seriously, and he promised them that he would. Shortly after that, they also called their daughter in school and encouraged her to stay with the Lord and not forget to take her studies seriously. This shows a picture of a very happy family serving the Lord in truth and in spirit. Unfortunately, things changed for the worse. The next scene shows the brother going to visit his sister in school, and she was so happy to see him. Unfortunately, she had not heard of the great news that had befallen their family. The brother and sister seemed to have a very good and cozy relationship, as expected of a godly family. She wanted to shoot a music video with her friends, while her brother was the one behind the camera, capturing every moment. She sang beautifully and wonderfully, while reminiscing every day from when she was little until then. She remembered how her and her mom had a beautiful relationship, how the mother grew her up in the way of the Lord. She remembered everything, and she knew that God loved her. Shortly after, the brother received a phone call, obviously telling him about the demise of his parents. The sister was wondering what was happening. When the brother reached the scene, he could not believe his eyes. He was inconsolable, and he cried because his parents, his only source of joy in this world, were dead. The sister ran to the school's notice board because she heard that results was out. That was before she even heard of the great news that waited for her. When she got home, she saw family members sitting down, and she was wondering, while everyone was looking so moody, her brother could not even answer her. Her auntie sat in one corner. Her uncle was inconsolable. She was asking them what was happening. Somebody should please talk to her, but nobody had the right answer to tell her. Suddenly, her uncle took the courage and told her that her parents were no more. This girl thought they were joking because she couldn't believe that her lovely parents, her beloved parents, were gone too soon. She actually thought it was a prank, but when she saw that everybody looked so serious and nobody was smiling or laughing, she knew that this was the truth. Her parents were gone. The next scene showed the police investigating by questioning the security man, asking him when last did he see his boss and if he knew anything suspicious about their deaths. But the man did not have any information to give them. He only told them that he didn't know so much, and his bosses had transformed his life. The next scene showed the DPO talking to the CDI, asking her how far the investigation of the case. She told him that God will help them. Next, Favor Davis was summoned by the principal to the office. The principal now realized that this girl was her daughter, so she was looking for a way to help her out. She was speaking to the girl, asking the girl how far with her family. The girl told her that the father is worse. The woman went ahead to hug the girl because she felt so sad. She knew that she was the reason why this young girl was going through all this sadness, pain, and hate in her life. She then made up her mind to talk to her husband when she got home. When she got home, she told her new husband that she had found her old daughter, but the husband would not have any of it. He told her that she would not be bringing a strange girl into his house in the guise of being her daughter, that she should let her past be in the past. The woman was sad because at this point she did not know what to do. It was only to go to God for mercy and cry for help and wisdom in this matter. His fear was that the girl would come and corrupt his children and make them bad eggs. The next scene showed a family giving their daughter's hand in marriage without the girl's consent. This is strange because who does that? At least the girl had to give her consent. But in this case, the father himself drank the wine on her behalf because he felt like he was the one that would make the major decision in this place, seeing that the family that the girl was going to be marrying into was an honorable family of titled name. He agreed to the proposal and decided to call his daughter. She came in and was wondering what was going on. By the time she saw people seated with wine and everything, she knew that her father was planning something bad for her, even without her consent. She stood there while they asked her if she was going to marry him, but she said no. She don't know anything about any in-laws, nor did she know anything about any husband. The father told her that she had no choice in the matter, for he had already sought her consent and drank her wine. She told him that she was not going to agree to it because she had other plans for her future and for her life. The next scene was so tragic, showing the funeral of the bereaved couple. Their family members and loved ones were in attendance, all crying and shedding tears of sorrow because it was indeed a sad thing that had happened. 2 souls were lost. 2 saints had gone home unneeded. It would only take God to comfort them. The son once more reminisced of how far he and his parents had gone. They had such a lovely and cordial relationship. Unfortunately, they were snatched from their hands. Death was so cruel to this family. 2 at once is such a huge blow. The daughter was so sad. She wondered why God had forsaken her, because he did not protect her dad and her mom. Her uncle tried to console her, telling her that things don't go the way it's planned because there are so many unanswered questions. The brother told them that God is not supposed to be blamed for the death. The uncle told them that he is not even talking about God. It seemed he did not believe in God. He just threw the thing to the air. Now Edward was being consoled by his disciples. They told him that the ways of God are not the ways of man. So he has to use this period to draw closer to God, because no matter what happens, God remains God. He is still on the throne. He still has a plan for him. He still has a future for him. He still secured his happiness for him. He still has good thoughts towards him, and is willing to bring him to an expected end, and that the Lord will protect him all the days of his life. Next scene shows the man in his previous scene throwing his daughter's clothes outside, saying that since she refused to get married to that man, he has chased her from his house and she would no longer stay under his roof. The girl told him that she was not willing to rush into any marriage and end up a failure like him. The father told her that since she was no longer going to do that, then he would no longer allow her to stay in his house. Now, this campus scene shows some fraternity men trying to lure freshers to join their club, but they met adversity where a Christian brother was already ahead of them, telling people about Jesus. They were so annoyed, they called a meeting immediately and were telling themselves the bad thing that had befallen them. How that this young man that was preaching Jesus was now taking away their customers and people that were supposed to join their fraternity. Obviously, Thelma from the previous scene was a member of this fraternity. That was why she was so confident and could tell the lecturer her mind without any fear. They now said that they were going to make sure that Christian brother paid for his sins because he had stopped their business. Next, the CDI was trying to wrap up her investigation, and she went to a hotel that had CCTV camera installed in the premises of the crime. They went in and asked to see the manager, because it was through the manager that they were going to see the footage from the previous CCTV. After going in, the manager gave them permission to see the footage, and they decided to see everything that they needed, and they left. At the end of this episode, it showed the uncle of those children looking as if he had hands in his brother's death, because he was promising them that he was going to make sure he sent Edward and his sister to him. He laughed and turned away. This is so suspenseful. I wonder what will happen in episode 2. If you really want to know what will happen in episode 2, please subscribe to this YouTube channel and stay tuned for more updates. Until next time.